McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
Our reporter Andrew Louth has been covering the trial for us, and he joins me now on the line. Andrew, good evening to you.
Good evening, Niall.
I'd say there was a lot of smiling faces, but sad faces today in the courtroom. And I suppose for everybody, it was the end of a journey, the journey to get justice for Aisling.
That's right, Niall. So I don't know if there were many smiles in the courtroom.
Well, relief was probably the better word I would have used. Relief and sad faces. Sorry.
I was just about to say relief was probably definitely the better word for us. So I suppose we were made. So the jury were the Justice Tony Hunt, the judge. He gave the jury just a few directions this morning after he initially retired to consider their verdict yesterday, and then at 10:53 he asked them to go and continue their deliberations. And then what happened was they took a break then for lunch, and the jury minder then came back into the court, told the registrar that they resumed at 1:49, and it probably wasn't even 15 minutes later then, Niall, when the jury minder came back in and informed of the verdict. And I suppose after this then, everybody's coming back into the courtroom. The accused, Joseph Pushka, Aisling Murphy's family, Joseph Pushka's family, all the gathering press. The courtroom was bursting at seams, Niall, for this verdict. And then it was delivered when the registrar confirmed that with the foreman of the jury that was the decision they'd reached, and that was a guilty verdict.
I mean, I know her mother, Aisling Murphy, Kathleen Murphy, held up a picture of her daughter just after the verdict was delivered. What was, I suppose, in that particular moment in the courtroom, you would have been looking around you. Joseph Pushka, did he seem upset with the verdict? Did he have a translator to translate the verdict to him? What was his reaction?
Yeah, actually, and one of the things about the verdict as well, we were waiting for everybody to come back into the room, including the interpreter, so that that could be relayed back to Joseph Pushka. And those few minutes, it was very tense, those few minutes when we're waiting for everybody to come back in, because especially for Aisling Murphy's family, this is the moment where, 12 strangers are deciding the fate of the man who they now know to have killed their daughter. And it was a very tense atmosphere. But Kathleen held a framed picture of Aisling up just straight after the verdict was delivered to the jury, and she held it up in the courtroom. It showed everybody in the courtroom the picture of Aisling, a 23-year-old girl, a school teacher, her whole life ahead of her, a very popular musician in the Tullamore area. And it really was a sense of huge relief for them. Kathleen and her husband, Aisling's father, Ray, they shared emotional embraces.
I can imagine.
And there was plenty of emotion from Aisling's boyfriend, Ryan Casey, and her sister, Amy, as well.
Aisling's boyfriend, Ryan Casey, described her as a vibrant young woman. I know Justice Tony Hunt told the jury that he agreed with their decision, and also he suggested there was evil in the room. I mean, that was not unprecedented for a judge to make a remark like that, but I mean, certainly one that I suppose resonated with everybody in the courtroom.
Absolutely. I think from my point of view, the evidence was, as Ms. Anne-Marie Lawler, the prosecuting barrister, put it in her closing speech, overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Joseph Pushka made confessions to murdering Aisling Murphy. The defence tried to argue that, was he in a fit state of mind to be interviewed by Gardaí when he made those.
That was a concerning moment, Andrew, wasn't it? And I heard you talking to Jane about that during the week. And it was a concerning moment when there was a suggestion that he wasn't fit to give a statement and the Gardaí should have checked that beforehand, etc., etc. So that was quite a concerning moment as well, because all of those are concerning moments when you think at any stage you can put doubt into a jury's mind.
Of course, but Anne-Marie Lawler, the prosecuting barrister, this was the testimony of Dr. Johan Grundling. He's a UK consultant, and a UK-based consultant. He made the observation, having read Josef Puschka's medical files, and he was saying what his practice would have been, that that police coming in looking to speak to a patient who was post-operative. And Anne-Marie Lawler kind of put to him that, the dosage of a drug called oxycodone, which was really the only drug in Josef Puschka's system at the time, which would have altered his behaviour. There was only 8.25 milligrams of that. And if you remember, Niall, about the testimony from Professor Michael Ryan, formerly of UCD, pharmacology and toxicology expert, he said that the level of oxycodone in Josef Puschka's body there's no evidence that it would have had any impact on his behaviour or whatever the case may be.
What do you think was the moment? We did expect it to go on a little bit longer than it did. It was a little bit shorter than we expected. But when do you think the moment, you saw the jury and you saw their faces and you would have saw the emotion in their faces, and at what point do you think from the very start the jury had a fair idea that he was going to be guilty or that he was guilty? Do you think there was a moment in that trial where there was a kind of turnaround where you said, okay, that's it? There's no way the story adds up, that Josef Puschka was trying to submit. The story, for those who don't know, he was suggesting, of course, that he was giving Aisling Murphy CPR, or that he was somehow trying to save her life, when indeed that wasn't the case. We now know he was killing her. At what point in that case do you think that turned around?
I'm not going to try to speak on behalf of a jury, Niall. You know yourself, for us to try and do that, it could lead us all sorts of paths. But for me, I can speak for myself, and I think there's two defining moments for me, anyway. The first one is, I'm going to say in plain simple English, it's the DNA evidence. There was his DNA found under Aisling Murphy's fingernails, and there wasn't the DNA of anybody else found in that, at least according to the evidence. That, and the likelihood of that being anybody else other than Josef Puschka or a relative, was 14,000 to 1, according to the YSTR profiling that Dr. Lorna Flanagan from Forensic Science Ireland told us about. I think that evidence was key, and I don't think there was any kind of getting around that one. But also the very first witness in the case, Ms. Jenna Stack. I think there was a moment in the trial, she spoke about seeing a man crouched over crouched over Aisling Murphy. And she didn't name the man. She just said she saw a man, and she said that there were particular features and all of that sort of thing. And it was in questioning then that the defence said that Josef Puschka instructed defence barrister Michael Bowman to say that he was helping Aisling Murphy. And that was a point that when Jenna Stack was talking about a man, it was when that question was asked that it was confirmed that the man that she was talking about was Josef Puschka. When she didn't name him, she didn't know who he was, she didn't know him from Adam. And then there was an essence then of when Jenna Stack picked out the wrong man in an ID parade. And there was a suggestion then that she said she was 100% sure she made a mistake. And then there was, an attempt to try and say that, people make mistakes, and maybe she made this mistake of what she saw down there. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, what she saw was Josef Puschka, and that was confirmed by Josef Puschka himself through his instructions to his defence barrister. Okay,
so in other words, they put him at the scene themselves. She didn't, they did.
Josef Puschka gave that instruction.
Yeah.
That was a defining moment for me.
Okay, I suppose at this point now, do they give an victim impact statement, or when does that happen, or at what point does that happen, or will they still get to do that?
Yes, they will. So I know what you're getting at there, Niall. Before, back not that too long ago, they would. It used to be all done on the one day. It used to be that the verdict would come in, there would be the victim impact statements, and then mandatory life sentence would be handed down. Now what's going to happen is, Josef Puschka was returned back to custody, and what's going to happen is on the 17th of November, so that's next Friday, we're going to reconvene in the Central Criminal Court, and that's when the Murphy family will be able to provide a victim impact statement, and that's when Mr. Justice Tony Hunt will officially hand down a mandatory life sentence. We know that is going to be the case. That is the only sentence available to the judge when somebody is convicted of murder.
Okay, well, as I said already, relief, a very sad day for the family of Aisling Murphy, for her mother Kathleen and her boyfriend as well, Ryan Casey, who paid tribute to her as well. And thank you very much indeed, Andrew. We thank you as well for covering the case diligently over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Thank you for doing that for us. And we shall talk to you again, obviously, when the sentencing happens and when that victim impact statement is given out. Thank you very much indeed, Andrew Louth.
Thank you, Niall.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.